been a pleasure for me to visit Ecumenical Christian Center in Whitefield, and I am guest of this. Friends, it's a pleasure to see august gathering of experts from Cambridge University, different institutions of UK, and delegates from various institutions across India, Bangladesh and other places. I'll be just trying to share a few things about the environmental challenges, the issues that this Indian subcontinent is passing through, facing several challenges in addressing these issues. I would like to just share few important ones, because if you look at the list is a very long list. So I'm trying to touch upon few important ones which we really need to focus on and take it on our agenda to address them in a very meticulous way. Otherwise, we will really have a very tough future days to come. Friends, we know this, unless we maintain a desirable quality, at least I don't say the highest quality, at least the optimum quality of environment, we will not be able to really make a meaningful life. That's one of the important aspects. And if you look at the linkages between the environmental issues, the quality of life, the problems that we are facing, we find there is a very strong intermediary link that is existing in this. And if you look at the contributions of these problems that our environment is facing in Indian subcontinent and link it with the possible diseases that we see every day around us, around 20% of the diseases are mainly have their root causes in the issues or problems of environment. And we need to also strike a good balance between harmony and balance between the economic, social and environmental needs of the. So this is the duty of every citizen of India to look at this in a very serious way. If you look at the environmental degradation, there are several aspects, there are several issues that are causing the environmental degradation, and it affects the poorest of the poor, people who are living in areas and people that are living in the rural community and rural areas. They are the worst hit, worst affected group of people in this country. And if you look at the degradation factors, basically they affect the soil fertility, the quality and quantity of the fresh water or the water that we are using, and then air quality and many other aspects linked to it. Basically, your marine life, your forests, all those things are directly or indirectly affected by the environmental factors. And a lot of studies have been done. We are very good at making studies and keeping them in the reports, but not taking good actions onto it. Basically, these reports, they very clearly bring out aspects or their interesting findings of such. There is a tremendous pressure on the natural resources, and this tremendous pressure basically triggered and aggravated by the problems faced by the environment. They are affecting the poor. Again, the poor they are very, very vulnerable to these problems, and this lack of a strong resilience in the environment has really affected us in several ways. If you look at the development aspects, we have several programs, we have several portfolio to address these issues, and this development has got an increasing impact. We plan several programs. For example, we have the Golden Quadrilateral laid across the country. But if you look at the environment we have cut. The number of, the amount of land that we have lost it cannot be imagined at all. And if you look at the urbanization, take the example of Bangalore. Bangalore, we claim we are the Silicon Valley of India. It's the most, beautiful city. All those things we said and done, okay, they are there. But if you look at the quality of land that has been converted to build this great city, we have lost the golden earth here. And we are left with all the useless lands to cultivate. So in most of the cases, in most of the urbanization, especially whenever we look at the expansion of these cities, we are losing the most fertile productive lands under the name of urbanization. So there is an increasing impact on the environment, and these issues, they are there on the top agenda of the government. Government is trying to address all these issues, but still we have problems in addressing them in a very what I should say, in a very integrated way. It happens in bits and pieces. Many times we don't find a greater connected link between the programs and plans that we implement for the benefit of the farm and people living in this, and also to protect the environment that we have. So there are several aspects. The government of Karnataka, government of India, all provincial governments, they are making their best to bring out the law, the statutory instruments to address these issues. If you look at some of the regulations, because I just wanted to touch upon it, we have more than 200 laws, acts and regulatory instruments that are active, they are in place in India. And I am just trying to put few of them here. Sorry for the small fonts. I hope the friends at the bottom are not able to look at them, see them. We have more than 200 regulatory instruments that are in place in India. All of them, they address the issues connected to environment. Whether it is pollution, air pollution, industrial pollution, noise pollution, or disposal of the waste, recycling, disposal, all these things, for everything we have the best acts and laws in place. But when it comes to their implementation in real practice, we are not very, effective in that way. So this is what I just thought I will throw light on it. For example, this fly ash management rule. Fly ash is a byproduct. Most of the time we were looking at it as a waste product. Whenever we have these thermal power plants, when they burn coal and then it generates lots of fly ash. Fly ash was a big menace to dispose it of. Now they have come out with several applications. They are using it in preparing cement, preparing bricks, and we have also done a lot of studies on use of fly ash for improving the soil fertility and productivity, especially in case of sandy soils where the textural classes are very, very light. There we apply a lot of fly ash that will improve the physical properties. For example, the water holding properties, things like that. But in spite of that, there is a big menace of this fly ash in the areas in and around these thermal plants. For managing the environment, addressing the issues with several aspects, issues on environmental factors, there are a lot of acts in place. But when it comes to their effective implementation, we are still a long way to go. I will try to just touch upon the few major environmental issues. I am trying to restrict them to Indian context. Maybe they are more generic in nature. They are prevailing across the globe, but their, the volume or the percentage, to what extent they are affecting the other continents or countries is different. Loss of biodiversity. I always keep this as the first place. Always in the first place, because it is the biodiversity that is directly, indirectly responsible for the living of any form of life on this earth. And we are threatened. There is a lot of loss of biodiversity in this country. Second one is land degradation. Land degradation has several forms. It is not just desertification, loss of soil flora, soil fauna, loss of fertility, productivity. It is loss of soil, topsoil, the fertile soil. We are all aware, even one formation of 1 inch of soil takes thousands of years, and it gets carried away within no time just with one flush of rain. So, land degradation is the biggest challenge in this great country. Third one is climate change. I need not have to give, this is the talk of the day. Everybody talks about climate change. Climate change has really assumed a very important place of discussion. But when it comes to action, again we are not very strong in that. Water pollution. Water pollution is brought about by several factors. Maybe I will touch a few of them when I go into the slide. And then industrial pollution and the agricultural pollution. Mining and especially the deforestation. Mining, they're all interlinked. Whenever people go for mining, they cut all the trees. Cutting of all the trees, that results into loss of these common property resources. When you go to the villages, we had a lot of areas, temple land was there, common property for grazing the animals, all these were there, they were part of our system in the rural setup. We have lost all of them, most of them I should say, the common property resources. We have more than 32 different titles of common property resources. For want of time, I'm not, touching upon them, but most of them have been either, engulfed by the industries or taken over by the people. People have encroached them. We have lost these common property resources. They were the lifeline of the villages. And then solid waste disposal. City like Bangalore, we generate more than 140 mld of water every day. And if you look at a small country like Israel, more than 80-85% of the water is recycled. And in a country like us, we never bothered to recycle water. We have just made a beginning. But most of the water is not recycled. It is not treated. Just leave it. And just imagine the amount of pollution it can cause to different natural streams, rivers, nalas and all that. We have now, Karnataka is very serious about it. We have given a recommendation to the government that most of the urban water must be recycled, secondary and tertiary recycled and then reused for the production of agricultural crops. And such an effort has been made in Bangalore, and Bangalore can irrigate 4 districts around Bangalore. Imagine, we have about 30 districts in the state, and Bangalore water itself can irrigate 4 districts of Karnataka. The entire agricultural production can be done with the recycled water of Bangalore wastewater. That is possible. So we can use it for all commercial crops. Secondary recycled water is fine. For food crops, we need to go for tertiary recycling. Otherwise, secondary recycled water is okay. We can grow all the commercial crops with that. And then e-waste disposal. We are again a great place where we have lot of e-wastage generated every day. We don't know how this is scientifically recycled. That is a greatest challenge in India. If you look at the biodiversity, we always claim that India is one of the most rich biodiversity country in the world. And definitely yes. We have biodiversity heritage sites like our Western Ghats. The entire Western Ghat is unique in its biodiversity. You can never find such a biodiversity in any other part of the world. So now the entire Western Ghat is threatened. People want to do mining, though mining and other things are, not allowed to be done there. So lot of biodiversity is under threat. And we always say we are a very rich, country with different, tigers. About 97% of our wild tigers have been lost. It's the latest, estimation. We have lost 97%, and close to 3,500 tigers are remaining now. So that's, Is it not a big problem to us? Yes. It is one species, but if we lose it, we can never, get it back. We have special program to, protect them, help them to survive and thrive. If you look at the southern India, again, because we are again the richest, biodiversity part of the country, and if you look at the elephant habitats, the entire habitats have come down. They have been reduced by about 10%. And most of the elephants are coming to the cities. They are making lot of, problems in and around the hills. I mean, that's happening now. We are all aware. Every now and then we read in the newspapers, we see them in the televisions, in the news, and saying that elephants are coming to the cities because we have bothered them a lot. We have taken away their entire habitat. And around 5 lakh hectares of forest has been diverted to several river valley projects. For example, we have constructed one big dam site across river Krishna in northern part of Karnataka. And that one dam site replaced more than 7 villages. Lakhs of people were rehabilitated. Rehabilitation, resettlement itself is a big challenge. And the quality of land that we have lost in the backwaters of Krishna, they were the most fertile soils. And the water that we are giving it for irrigation is marginal lands. Look at the agony of it. The planning. It means to say, big irrigation projects, they are not advisable. One thing, we end up quality land. This really spoils our entire, dynamism in the nature, and we should plan for small irrigation projects. They are better, they are more sustainable. Cost-wise, they are more profitable. Our neighboring state, Goa. I'm just trying to give small examples here and there, and then try to share the severity of the problem. In case of Goa, huge mining is going around Goa. Around 500 square kilometers of the land is being mined, and it constitutes about 14% of the total geographical area of the state. So if 14 to 15% of the entire part of the state is under mining, imagine the problems that it can create. We took some research projects. So after the mining is done, the minerals are extracted, then they just leave the waste there. What we have done with the International Potato Research Institute, which is based in Lima, Peru, we have started one project to produce. We will put back the soil in the mined area, and it has all the nutrients that are required for the production of potato and sweet potato. The land has been given back to the farmers. Farmers were given compensation at the time of mining. Lands are given back to the farmers, and the companies are helping them to plow back that mined soil, and then we are helping them to produce potato and sweet potato in the mined lands. This is one way to rehabilitate. Otherwise, they just remain unused, barren, and they can create a lot of other imbalance and then problems. So such efforts are required. We just can't mine and leave them there. So this is a live example that we have done in Karnataka, and farmers are happy because they are producing very high quality potato and sweet potato from that area. And they are linked to the industry. All the chips and all, it comes from Belgaum, where the entire Hindalco mining was done. The lands are now being rehabilitated. So this is an example. This is how we have to do it. But this has all impact on the loss of biodiversity. If you look at the current species in Indian flora, they are scarce, they are alive, and then about 25% are invasive. Around 10% of the flora that is recorded flora, wild flora in Indian subcontinent, lot of wild fauna, they are threatened, because in case of agriculture we use wild flora for the breeding purposes. We have a biodiversity garden where we collect the world's best wild relatives of different crops. We use their, qualities of resistance to introduce. So such a wild flora is being lost because we never bother for it. We never care for the wilder, wild flora and fauna. If you look at the wild fauna, what about 80 species of mammals? They are threatened. Around 47 different, about 15 different types of reptiles, and 3 of the amphibians, and lot of moths, and butterflies, and beetles. They are listed under endangered list. How these moths, butterflies, and beetles, they are important. They contribute more than 30% to the entire natural pollination in crop. We never estimate, their presence, their importance. But such a huge number under the loss of, biodiversity. There is an estimate which talks about by 2100, about 366 vascular taxa and 35 endemic vertebrate taxa will be out of this country. They do not make immediate to conserve them, to multiply them, rebuild them. And if you look at the mangroves and the wetlands, around 40% of the mangroves and lot of wetlands, very crucial part of the wetlands, we have lost them. And we cannot afford to lose them anymore. And out of 19 species of primates, basically the mammals, and out of 19, 12 are again in the endangered list, more than 50%. So this is the gravity of problem that we are facing in the biodiversity. The next problem is land degradation and desertification. We cannot afford, a country like India, China, we cannot afford the land degradation and desertification because we cannot enhance the total area under cultivation. And if we are further losing the area under cultivation, we have a big challenge of food security, producing enough food for the people living in this great country. This desertification and degradation was not happening. But many times it is man-made. We have aggravated the speed of this degradation and desertification, and around 96.4 million hectare, or we can say around 30% of the country's land is under one or the other form of degradation. The severity, gravity may be different, but all put together, close to 30% of the country's area is under one or the other form of degradation. If you look at desertification, desertification is one form of land degradation, and it is linked. Whenever we go for forestation, deforestation, whenever we go for urbanization, whenever we go for land clearing, all such things will lead to desertification. And around 228.3 million, or close to 70% of the country's land is again affected. Severity will vary, but one or the other form of desertification. In some cases it may be for deforestation, in some cases it may be urbanization, in some cases it may be laying of these huge roads, railway lines and all that, putting up of these huge aerodromes, all this directly or indirectly influencing and pushing the land towards desertification. And the cost of desertification, you cannot imagine the figures. The figures, they may be very, minimal in this case, but the cost wise it is very, very huge. So, land degradation, I am just trying to touch upon important factors. For example, in case of water erosion is basically, we always link the torrent rains to climate change. But such torrent rains, recently we had huge floods in Karnataka. Right? We never had such floods. As a child, I have not seen such floods in northern part of Karnataka. It was happening in my own district. You know, a lot of people left their houses, lands, everything, you know, came to rehabilitation centers. So to say about 94 million hectares of land in the country is put to water erosion. The surface soil is endangered due to various forms of water erosion brought about by the waters. It is basically the flow of river or other forms of water erosion. Around 16 million hectares is affected by the acidification. Acidification is also becoming a major threat in some of the places. And then around 9 million hectares. Now, because we don't have in a good forest, good vegetative cover, it is again subject to wind erosion. About 6 million hectares. Wherever we build huge dams, we provide water for irrigation, and people just irrigate the land because water is free in this country. And that leads to salinity, alkalinity, sodicity, waterlogging, several other problems. It is around 6 million hectares of land. This is an induced form of desertification due to the development plans that we have done. We never planned for the proper drainage before we give water. We cannot drink 3 liters of water and sit here for 3 hours. We have to go out, drain it out. And these lands have been given only water, and we never showed them a way to drain the excess water. And that has led to salinity, waterlogging, lot of such issues. And you know, about close to 7 million hectare, a combination of different reasons. I mean, such causes, factors. So this is the severity. We are not worried about this because this figure is very, makes us to worry. If you continue to do like this, if you continue with the, business of doing things like this, we have a very, threatened future, I should say. So desertification. Desertification basically, see, in case of lands under less vegetative cover, if you go towards the plains, especially in the arid and semi-arid regions where we have very high temperatures, low rainfall, that leads to lot of loss of carbon, soil carbon. All this leads to, loss of topsoil, and this leads to desertification. We have Karnataka again. We have another state in the north, that is Rajasthan. Rajasthan is one state where lot of land is under desertification. We also have, unless we take, corrective measures, we will not be able to address them. So we started one initiative on this, addressing the desertification. We call a project called Land Resource Inventorization. We have not done it. Again, it is first of its kind in the world. I am saying it is first of its kind in the world, where detailed land resource inventorization is done for 11 districts in Karnataka, and we have come out with decision support system that is developed for individual survey number of the farmers. The recommendation are given to the farmer what he or she should do to protect his or her land in the future. So this is completely scientific. We have done complete cataloging of the soil, its analysis, its genesis, its classification, its management. All these things are recorded. They are given. Decision support system is available at each Gram Panchayat. Farmers can receive individual soil inventory in the form of a book, and they will also be given with the recommendations what is suitable to their land. Most of the time, we select a crop which doesn't match that soil, and farmers end up in losses, and that leads to many other disasters. So henceforth, in areas where this land degradation, desertification is addressed to land resource inventarization, the cultivation of crop will be scientific. It will be on strong scientific grounds. So such an effort is required to address desertification. Climate change, I will not touch much on this. You are all aware, but still we are seeing events of severe precipitation. severe precipitation leading to floods and affecting the normal, more frequent and extreme heat conditions. If you take example of Delhi, either we have extreme cold or we have extreme hot situations. Bangalore may not be like that, but we have situations being prevailing in this country. The sea levels are rising, and then health impacts, you cannot be imagined. I said 20% of the diseases. The cause of 20% of the diseases are attributed to the environmental factors. And desertification affecting the marine life, lot of things, pressure on the groundwater supply. For example, again, take the example of Bangalore. Every household has got a borewell here. I don't want to share my water with my neighbor. I want to have an independent borewell. A 30-40 site has a borewell. Imagine, Bangalore has a total population of 1.4 crores, right? 1.5 crores, 4 crores, including the floating population. About 1.2 is living in the city, and 0.2 million, 2 million, about 20 lakh people, it is a floating population to Bangalore every day. So imagine the amount of pressure that we put on the natural resources, whether it is water, it is traffic, whatever it is. And then the changing seasons. We have now, we used to get rains by end of May in Bangalore. Anytime, whenever the temperature crosses 32 degrees, 33 degrees, 4 o'clock in the evening, we used to get rains. Now, only when it crosses 38, it rains. So, all the patterns have changed. Monsoon used to set exactly on 7th of June. We don't know, we cannot imagine. Sometimes it starts in July. So, when the shift of the entire, the rainfall system changes, the entire agricultural operations, they get postponed. And the window that we get for sowing is very short. I cannot take up sowing after 10 days after it rains. Window is very short. I have to complete my entire sowing operation in 48 hours. If I fail to do it, I will not be able to sow the crop. So this is another impact of climate change. Ice is melting, and then lot of the shift in the animal and plant ranges. So all this is happening. This is attributed to climate change. The impacts are common across the globe, but the severity, the intensity is different. So we have intensive impacts of climate change in our case. So we also say by 2050 we will be losing a lot of economy on this. The amount of, if it is assessed in terms of monetary terms, it will be close to $1,730 billion will be losing because of the impacts of this climate change. And India, country, which is vulnerable to the impact of global warming and climate change. And we are the second most affected country in terms of casualties related to extreme weather. Many times we find in the news that people dying because of the heat waves, cold waves, heavy rainfalls, floods, and all that. This is the severity of the climate change. And if you look at the sea levels are increasing. They have almost increased by 0.19 meters between 1901 to 2010, and now the process is still going on. And as per the IPCC fifth assessment report, by 2100 sea may rise by 0.98 meters. Can we imagine the amount of disasters it can bring to the cities that are located on the seashores? So India will further lose around 14,000 square kilometers of land with just rise of less than a meter. We cannot afford to lose any land. We cannot bring more land into agriculture, into production. But this will be a single impact of rise of sea level, that itself can engulf 14,000 square kilometers of land. See the severity of the problem is there. Next is water pollution. It's a big menace, 70% of the surface water sources are expected or said that they are affected by one or the other contaminants. They are contaminated. Maybe this contamination varies, but they are contaminated. If you look at the polluted rivers, India is again known for a long list of rivers across the country, and out of 275 live rivers across the state, across the country, close to 121, more than 60-70% of the rivers are polluted, and the severity of pollution is increasing in the last half a decade. If you look at the states, we have now different programs. For example, Ganga cleaning is a big project costing several thousands of crores of rupees. International donors are pouring their money into it. Indian government is pouring the money into it. But still, the pollution continues. We are making our efforts to clean it. What about our rivers? We have our rivers in the southern states. We have big rivers. For example, look at the state of Maharashtra. Most of the rivers are polluted in Maharashtra. So, the river pollution is another severe thing because it affects the entire life in the river, the life all along the way it flows, right from its birthplace to its end when it joins the sea. So this is the severity. About 10% of the wastewater is generated. Sometimes it looks bigger number to me. We are not even treating 10% of the sewage water. Now it is compulsory in Bangalore. Every household should treat, every apartment should treat the water and live. Otherwise it is a big penalty they are going to put. This has to be made compulsory. Few months back I was in Israel. 80 to 85% of the water is treated, recycled, because they know the value of water. We don't know the value of water because we get it just free of cost. Deforestation, it's again severe issue, and the deforestation continues. If you look at between 2001 to 2009, across the Indian subcontinent, there is a decrease. About 2.8 million hectares of land has lost its forest area. And this is more severe in the states like Kerala. Kerala is supposed to be the most beautiful and green state. There it has lost a lot of area under forest. Next one is Madhya Pradesh, and the last one is Andhra Pradesh. So these are the three states which have lost a lot of area under forest in the last 1 decade. Air pollution. And again we have the best example. Bangalore is the best example for air pollution. If you take Delhi, that's a typical example in Indian subcontinent. So, we are among the different forms of pollution. Air pollution brings a lot of difficulties to the human health. So, air pollution is fourth largest threat to human health. And we have seen the oxygen levels, we have seen the carbon levels in Delhi. We don't find big displays in Bangalore. I hardly find any displays. Here and there, 2-3 close to MG Road and all, they just show. I don't know to what extent the figures are correct, but we have severe air pollution problems in the country. Especially, this is more true in case of urban areas and cities like metropolitan cities. And if you look at the position of India, we are at the bottom of the chart. When it comes to clean air, safe air, out of 132 countries assessed by AIL in Colombia, we are at the bottom of the list. We are not in the front, top. Means we have severe air pollution problems prevailing. If you look at the top polluted cities in the world, out of the 20 top polluted cities in the world, 50% are in India. 50% are in India. So that is, and India, within India, Delhi is the top. So this is the severity. And then after Diwali, we have a beautiful festival celebrated every year in India. We call it as Diwali, and people use a lot of crackers. And if you look at the quality of air in Delhi and nearby capital, it is completely in the hazardous level. Not worth for inhaling that air. So that is the situation. So it is the duty of every citizen to create awareness on these issues. So if you look at the air pollutants, close to 43% is contributed by the industrial pollutants. Air is polluted by industry. It is to the tune of 43%. And then next one is the vehicular pollution. Pollution created by the vehicles. Bangalore, every household has 3 cars. One for the head of the family, one for the lady, and one for the whole family when they go to work. So 3 cars. We don't have place to park our cars in the city. If you travel in the night, the entire lanes in the city are parked with vehicles. So this is the situation, and this contributes to the tune of 27% of the total air pollution. And next one is agriculture. Agriculture contributes close to the tune of 11%. Especially, we end up in using lot of chemical fertilizers. We end up in spraying lot of chemical pesticides. We use lot of herbicides. So these are the 3 categories that contributes to air pollution. Around 7% is the landfill emissions and 12% is other sources of contribution. This is the sources of emissions of the air pollutants. So industrial pollution, vehicular pollution, agricultural pollution. They are on the top list of the sources that contribute lot of pollution. I would just like to touch upon which are the major pollutants that we find here. One is the particulate matter. Second one is the carbon monoxide. This is too much. And then nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, lead. Lead is now coming to control because they have put lot of restrictions on the use of lead, and the ground level ozone content. So these are the major air pollutants that we find in the order. Next one is mining. India is a very rich source of minerals, and we are now fond of exploring all the minerals wherever possible, become rich and rich and rich. We want to become more and more rich and compete with other developed countries. But mining, whatever the wealth it brings to the humanity, it also brings equally the same number of problems to the humanity. So mining, this is one of the major economic activity in the Indian subcontinent, and we always say it contributes significantly to the Indian economy. I don't deny that, but it also brings lot of difficulties to the people who are living in and around those mining areas. If you look at the economy that we get out of this, is we are the largest producers of the sheet mica, we are the 3rd largest producers of the iron ore, and the 5th largest producers of the bauxite in the world. This we take pride in saying all this, but we never talk about the degradation, the pollution that are associated with this process of mining. And if you look at the GDP contribution, it varies from 2.2% to 2.5%. And if you look at the entire industrial contribution to GDP, it is close to 10 to 12%, and it is around 2 to 3% is complete just from the mining sector. In spite of lot of hue and cry by the general public, government tries to allocate more and more area for mining. And the recent examples are Odisha and Maharashtra, wherein they have allocated huge lands for mining bauxite. There was an effort in Karnataka also to give for gold mining. There is a beautiful place which is called as the treasure of, the medicinal and aromatic crops, plants. There was a huge hue and cry by the public not to allocate any land in that area for mining. So somehow, for the time being, that mining is stopped, and we are happy that we are able to conserve those medicinal. They have the world's most rarest of the rare medicinal plants naturally growing in that area near Gadag district of Karnataka. So impacts of mining, I will not touch upon it because this results into loss of biodiversity, loss of land for soil fertility, productivity. We lose lot of water there, and we also create fallow lands. Lands are not rehabilitated. People have to evacuate from that place. All this will happen. It will also bring lot of health hazards. All these things are the byproducts of the great mining. Water management becomes a difficult task. Air pollution is one of the important component. Exposure to radiation, and then land use management is very tough because we will have even confusion to allocate, classify that land under different land use classification. It's very difficult for even scientists to categorize these lands, provide the management solutions to the land, formation, and then greenhouse gas emission. So these are the byproducts of one mining industry. Agriculture pollution, though I am from agriculture sector, yes, we also contribute too much to the environmental degradation. One is we use lot of chemical fertilizers. 70 years back, our farmers had no practice of applying chemical fertilizers to the soil. It is we, people like us, who helped them to grow more and more crops because we wanted to produce more and more food. We have shown them the way to use more and more chemical fertilizers. People started more chemical fertilizers, more productivity, more problems. Because I will just take the example of nitrogen. Nitrogen, when you apply nitrogen more than the required, there are records, there are studies which show that we apply 3 to 4 times more nitrogen than required by the crop. This excess nitrogen makes the crop succulent. Crop becomes very soft. Crop becomes very, very vulnerable to the pests and disease attack. When more and more pests and disease come, we want to spray them with the chemical pesticides, insecticides. That also contributes to the pollution. And then more application of nitrogen, more weeds. Again, we use herbicides to control weeds. All this is a gamut. One leading to the other. We want to address one issue, we end up in the new issue. So all this excess application of fertilizers resulting into excess growth of weeds, we end up in using weedicides, herbicides. It leads to lot of outbreak of pests and diseases. We end up in spraying lot of chemical pesticides. All this contributes to pollution brought about by agriculture. We were just using 7.7 million tons of fertilizers in 1995. Now it has reached 28.7, almost 3 times, 4 times, I should say. And then agriculture contributes close to 23% of the greenhouse gases. Look at the contribution of this towards global warming. And another important aspect, basically about 500 million tons of crop residue is burned. For example, farmers coming from sugarcane belts. We don't want to take away the residue of the crop, convert that into manure and then reapply it. We have no much patience to do it. We just put fire and burn it. The amount of pollution it creates is really terrific, and close to 500 million tons of crop residue is burned. It releases lot of smoke, and that really causes lot of air pollution. Thermal pollution. I said we depend a lot of in a big way on the thermal energy. And these thermal factories, at least in Karnataka, we have two big thermal plants, one near Raichur and one near Ballari. Many times I passed through that place, and it's a terrific life around that place is really terrific for the people. And this thermal, power production, it leads to several other problems such as air pollution, and also, we have other problems like fly ash and other things in these areas. And if you look at the suspended particulate matter and respirable suspended particulate matter, it can go up to 20-25 kilometers around the factories. So the entire land gets affected. People have to evacuate from that place if they want to really lead a good life. In every plant, close to 500 to 1,000 acres of land is acquired for the establishment of the plant, for storage of the coal, and then disposal of the fly ash. So this is the situation, means so much of land is taken out from cultivation and provided. And if you look at the area where such plants are established, they are established in the most fertile and productive lands, not in the wastelands. That is the agony associated with this. And if you look at the amount of water that is required, it is close to 16,000 to 28,000 liters per hour of water is dumped. That's the amount required by these thermal plants in these areas. So this thermal power plants has lot of impacts on the environmental aspects. So what I mean to say here is, I have touched upon very few factors, important ones that are being addressed. We are trying to bring in several instruments, legal instruments, acts, statutes to address them. But I would like to say and conclude one thing, that it is the responsibility of every individual sitting here, every citizen of the country, to look at these figures. I was trying to give you some figures just to show how severe is the problem. Unless we address them as a citizen of this country, not that everything to be done by the government. We are responsible citizens. We want to lead a healthy and a happy life. It is also our duty to see that we have to do our bit. Unless we do it, we will not be able to do it. Let us protect. We always claim that we are the most beautiful country. We have a very rich heritage. We have the world's best spots available in the country. But it's also our duty to see that they are all protected from such evil practices. Unless we do that, we will not have a brighter future in the days to come. With this, I close my presentation, because I have crossed 2-3 minutes extra. We were talking about few seconds, people say sorry, and I have taken 3 minutes extra. I don't know what I should say. So thank you very much for patient listening.
Thank you, Dr. Ashok Adur, for this brilliant presentation. He has presented to us not a part of gloom, but we are part of this impending calamity. So we are part of how we can resolve it. So first thing is that you being aware. So I think we are aware. He has given us a real enlightenment about what we are really doing things, and then how then only we will be capable of seeing that how we can resolve it. So let us put our hands together and appreciate. Now, yes, I am not going to summarize or anything. Now it is open forum. So let us, yes.
Yes, please.
Yes. Yeah, the mic, somebody.
You can see, I can hear you.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful presentation. And from the conclusion of your presentation, I got to know that it's the science and its practices which more pollute and causes the pollution to the land rather than the religion. But in the reality, but I am anticipating that you may say the religion it contributes more a lot in the pollution, because for example we can see in the Nasik the Kumbh Mela, and in times of the Diwali, and in times of the for coming to the Christians during the baptism, they will pollute the water. So according to all these things, the religion is the one and mostly which causes the pollution. And one more thing is that in order to the preventive steps of the pollution is companies in the situation of the lacking of mangroves, so the companies have to help to rehabilitate, and in order to get use of the water resource, the drainage facilities should be implemented before only. But in the first session, in the first very 5 minutes of your speech, you said that urbanization, in the process of the urbanization, we have lost more fertile products. But in order to rehabilitate the lost fertile products, we have to go through the urbanization only. So, according to your lecture, urbanization is the solution for the pollution.
Now please ask the question.
Urbanization is the key issue.
Small confusion in it, but I will try to clarify. Yes, every religion they have the most wonderful, practices and systems in place. We have not looked at them with the science class many times, whether it is Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, or many other things. No, Diwali. I will just take the example of Diwali. Diwali, we call it as the festival of lights. The philosophy behind celebrating Diwali in India is to take out the ignorance, darkness by lighting. Light represents the knowledge. A light represents the knowledge. Let us not crack those, use those crackers. Let us use simple, vegetable oil lamps to do it. We can do it. So this is how we have to encourage. Now we should understand the concept. What is, you have to bring light to the life. It means we have to make ourselves empowered to move from ignorance to knowledge. So that is the entire message of Diwali. But we have forgotten those things, and then we are trying to just take it in a different way. But when it comes to urbanization, friends, we have forgotten to create enough facilities in the rural areas. The youth want to come down to cities. Why? Because they don't have enough facilities. It is the mistake of the policymakers like us. We did not create facilities in the villages, and everybody wants to come to Bangalore. There is no need for people to come to Bangalore. They can have their own livelihood. They can have more healthy and beautiful livelihoods in the villages. And then the urbanization will not be so severe as we are seeing it. Everybody, people who comes to Bangalore, never go back. Everybody, it is the beautiful weather, it's a beautiful city, giving life to everybody. A billionaire can live here, and a beggar can live and live a happy life. But this has resulted into a huge, crumble city. Urbanization is not a solution. We have to create, what Mahatma Gandhi said, unless we empower the villages, the people living in the villages, the youth living in the villages. If we provide opportunities to youth in the villages, they will never make their mind to come to the cities. We have a big problem in agriculture. Nobody wants to do agriculture in the villages. They are ready to come and serve as watchmen in the cities, but not go back. This is the situation. We have to make agriculture, we have to make living in the rural areas more interesting, more beautiful, more opportunistic. Then people will not come, and we can address the problems of urbanization. I thought this is what you wanted to ask. Am I right?
Jasmine, then Papa.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful presentation. And as you rightly have said, that 46% of air pollution is produced by the industries. And what would be a religious response to the industry as the science or the the industries are polluting our country? So what would be the religious response to it?
It's a very interesting question. Very interesting question. I hope many of us, we come from the rural background. Many of us. Not everybody, many of us. I come from a very small village background. And we had temple lands. Temple land used to have variety of trees. It was a rich biodiversity. Such temple lands were maintained, managed, enriched by the religious heads of the institutions which are built there, whether it is the Hindu temples, Christian temples, Muslim mosques or anything. I have seen them. But now, of late, they have also restricted themselves to the temples, churches and the mosques. They have not bothered about these religious lands. People, the moment the trees grow old and fall off, they have never bothered to plant them back. That is one way. I was talking about the common property resources. Property resources also includes the temple lands. They were looked as holy. The entire concept was given that they are holy, you are not supposed to touch them. It means that was a touch given to that place to make it more holy so that people don't cut them and then misuse them. One. The second thing, the ponds, the rivers, all were worshipped in this country, right? And we treat them as the mother earth, the mother rivers, all that, ponds and tanks. The practice is completely gone. If you look at the young buddies, they never bother about it. And people who had that belief in worshipping them, they always knew that their livelihoods are derived from these tank areas, river beds. They never used to pollute them. They never used to, because I have seen, there used to be a separate pond for washing animals. There used to be a separate place for washing clothes. The water that spills out of the tank only used at that portion. But now people go and wash lands, clothes everywhere. It means indirectly. The religion again, ultimately, people look at it. When we look at the religion, when we have more problems, when we have severe issues, again we go back to, we become very philosophical, we look at it and then we go back and ask what is that we can do, because we have already finished everything. So, religion has a greater role to play. We have to link, take those extracts, those principles that are embedded in every religion. If you take the summary of every religion, it is one and the same. But it has lot of principles embedded in it to protect our environment. So basically, water resources, land resources and plant resources. We have several, principles and practices in each and every religion. We have to look at it. For example, some of the trees are worshipped as holy trees and not the others. It's not like that. The amount of oxygen they release, the amount of, the freshness they bring about, the volume of canopy they produce is huge. So they are given a holistic touch. People look at them as holy trees. They never cut them. So like that, religion has to address such issues through the principles embedded in each of them. And by that, we can do a bit to the environment.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ashok. It was quite insightful, quite stunning to see all the details and the numbers, and especially regarding to the numbers. I was wondering, do you have a common source of them, or is it like from your own research, or is there any national survey about about ecological pollution.
A very interesting question. One interesting study was done by United Nations Development Project. UNDP did an exhaustive study across India, and the beautiful report is available. It's accessible even on the internet. But the sources are not from a single. It's not from the single source. In most of the cases, I have not put the references, but for every point, I have a reference. My secretary has put the unedited version here. I did not bring the final version to the presentation. I'm sorry for that, but every point has been drawn from different sources. But one comprehensive report is from the UNDP. They have done an extensive study on environmental issues in India. It's available, it's on the open source, and that you can see. But there are several studies. Each provincial studies are also there. Provincial studies, they bring out a lot of important aspects on the severity of the environmental issues in the state and the country.
Thank you for the floor. I would like to thank ECC for inviting such a resourceful, dynamic, busy man. He's a BC, his Vice Chancellor is a very busy man. So I want has been mentioned. I have not seen any in a single presentation so many statistics, the figures, and you are too open, sharing the things, and you are very dynamic and open in sharing the informations, but all are in constructive, not destructive way to the country. So I thank the EC for bringing such a resourceful, dynamic man for the presentation of this. I have a small question, and you will like that question. It's not really a question. So you have identified the challenges, and from A to Z, you have identified all this, from global warming, with their socio-economics, the water sector, agriculture, everything. Now India is heading for superpower. And you are competing with some big countries, and especially maybe with the China. So what do you think of the future direction? While you have identified many challenges of your country.
We are sailing in the same boat. Many times in many places I mentioned we are second in number. We stand second. The first place is to China. So they have more severe problems than us. Becoming superpower is one interesting aspect, but it is not that easy. We can only cover up. It can be only an umbrella coverage, but it has lot of trickling difficulties, constraints that are there. For example, I'll just take 1 minute to explain how we have about 82 million small and marginal farms which are not very economical to cultivate. We claim we are the second largest in the country, in the world, to have more number of small and marginal farms. China is number one. They have more smaller land holdings. When I say small and marginal land holdings, it brings a set of problems to the farmers. I cannot use my own mechanization. I cannot afford to go and market my produce at long distances. When I buy something from the market, my inputs, I pay more freight. When I sell something, I pay double freight. I have no control on the price. Price is dictated by the buyer because the volumes that I produce is very small. Unless I amalgamate my land, I bring my farmers together, I will not be able to. I can become superpower. My country can become superpower. But at the same time, we need to address problems at the grassroots.
Sir, I want to say this thing because my Prime Minister said the same thing what you have said. My Prime Minister has given a lot of facilities. Sheikh Hasina, the third term she is a Prime Minister. She has given a lot of facilities for doctors, MBBS people. But they don't want to be in the rural areas. Now, my Prime Minister said the urban people enjoying the facilities. I want to make the rural areas also like urban areas. They have the right to enjoy the same facilities the urban people are enjoying. That's what you say. So that's why I liked it very much. You never forget anything. It seems spontaneous, the facts and figures you have in your brain. Thank you.
Basically, we talk about smart cities. Friends, this country requires smart villages than smart cities. We have enough cities in this country.
Yes.
We have enough cities in this big country. We need to have plans for smart villages. Unless we create the most interesting livelihood options at the village level, I cannot stop my youngsters to move to the cities. So that is the responsibility of this country. We may become superpower. We will become superpower, not an issue. But unless we address the grassroots level problems, becoming superpower at the international level doesn't make any sense for us. My fellow farmer, my fellow countrymen who is at the bottom of the pyramid should be happy. The top will be definitely strong.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Let us give a big applause to
Yes, madam.
So I want to ask a small and simple question. It's what is your opinion on that? Like, what is more important to encourage people's standard to living or to protect the environment?
This is a very interesting question. A very simple, small example I will quote and close. Every one of us, we use commodes in our right? Commodes. And the moment you flush it, we lose 15 liters of water. A small flush and a bigger one. Small flush, you can, or in the older ones, you have to just push and lift. We never do it. How many of us we do it? Very few, very few. Out of 250, 5 people. Simple. I'm just telling you. Point number 2, for the men. How many of us close the tap when we shave? We never do it. While brushing, while shaving, it will be just the water will be running. We never do it. It's a small bit that we can definitely do. Take pride in switching off the light. And if you keep on switching the light, then say, this is conjuice. Right?
Yes.
It is not the question. We don't. If you see all big cities, take examples. Take your households. Let us not bother about the other things. We never bother to switch off the lights when they are not in use. We want to put big lamps, mask lights, showcase through my. It's not required. I'm just quoting simple examples. I will quote another example. We have designed a system, a 3x6 balcony, someplace. 6 balcony, you can produce most healthiest vegetables to feed 4 to 5 people living in the farm. How many of us we do? We bring everything. And Bangalore is such a city. People get cut vegetables in the morning. Means they don't want to even wash and cut their vegetables here. So, why I am quoting these examples is, every one of us have to do our bit. Right? I don't say, switch off all the lights, sit in the dark. Use them when and where you need it. And whenever you don't need, switch them off. A poor guy living in the villages, go to Rajasthan. Go to Rajasthan, Kota and all. People don't have a glass of water available for their nature calm. And we end up in spending 15 liters through one flush. What is justice we are doing? Leave aside justice to mankind, justice to nature. Lot of things. So, it is the self-responsibility of every citizen on this globe that we respect our natural resources. We respect our, flora, fauna. Every one of us we should respect. We don't have, ruthlessly we cut trees. Ruthlessly we cut trees. We kill plants. We never have, courtesy to replant them. Recently I was reading the news clipping. One gentleman had a big tree in his compound in Bangalore. He wanted to cut that tree. Cutting of tree is not allowed. He poisoned that tree and killed it. See the level of cruelty. Is it not the cruelty? It's the height of cruelty. So let us do our bit so that everybody does it. Unless I correct myself, I will not be able to correct my neighbor, my friend, my fellow, family person. So it is the individual responsibility. Every one of us have to do our bit. I am not saying every one of us have to do everything. I am just saying a bit, whatever we can do. Let us start from today. Let us take oath from this great place that we will not use the bigger flush. We just flush and lift when we use it for number 1. When we do it for number 2, see how much water you should use it for flush. I am the last person to do it. Many times, though I have enough water in my house, I just put the water in the bucket and then I pour it. I never put on the tap when I am shaving. All this, and your children will pick your qualities. If I am doing it, they will follow, and this will continue. And we can't afford to do it. Bangalore, Chennai will be next to our Cape Towns in this country. We will have problems in the days to come. We may not have such big conferences if we don't have water. So that is the thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ashok Alur. I know there are lots of people wanting to ask the questions, but we don't have that much time. We will come back at 4 o'clock, and then how the discussions will be with these 4 professors, our Deputy Director Mendon will be explaining.
Okay, for the sake, we cannot give you much time, and I would say we will give you much time. Now we shall break for a tea. We shall disperse for a tea, and let's try to finish our tea by 4. And then after that, unlike yesterday, we will go and meet among the resource person, whomever you wish to. Okay. So we are creating special provisions for you to meet them in person and in a close group. People who would like to meet and interact with Professor Russell will go to Dialogue House launch. In the Dialogue House inside, along with you, sir, and all people who wanted to meet him or interact with him can go and have spend time with him there privately. And with Dr. Dennis, who would like to meet Dr. Dennis can come here and have a special time with him. And with Reverend Dr. John Weaver in the chapel. If you just climb the stage, upon there we have a chapel there. Whoever would like to meet or spend time together with Dr. John Weaver, we can you meet him chapel. And our vibrant and very dynamic speaker of this evening, people who would like to meet Dr. Ashok Alur, can meet him in lecture hall. Lecture hall is just adjacent to the. If the weather permits, you can meet there. But I am a bit doubtful. I just coming from outside. Yeah, it's drizzling a little bit. Yeah, but if there is no rain, then you can meet over there. No problem. Lecture hall. Yes. If rain permits, then you can meet outside also. No problem. And let us make a discussion hour for 1 hour. Let's say for 4 to 5. And then after that, we will have for about 1.5 hours until 6:30. We can take rest or we can refresh ourselves. And at 6:30, let us assemble all together here for another session. We still have with Dr. Dennis Alexander on history of science and faith, 6:30. And if we can confine that until 7:30 this evening, since we will be program after dinner, we will have dinner at 7:30 to 8, and then at 8 we shall start our campfire program. Evening cultural session. And before we disperse, I would like to meet one student representative each from each college. TTS, no, KUTS, SIBS. Thank you. Any confusion? Full of confusion. No. know. Okay? Thank you so much.